Can you see me there in the video?
Yep. You're fine.
Good.
And the Buddha's right there.
Good.
Over your shoulder.
Buddha's always there.
Yes.
I need one of these, the chapter books.
I will not be here next week. It is
And
Christmas Eve.
we won't be here next
Okay.
week too, so
Will you be here New Year's Eve or will you be off then too?
off then too.
Okay.
So I think we'll
Take a couple week break.
yes, and we'll start in January.
Okay. Hey, Donna.
Hello.
Hi.
Is somebody sitting here?
I thought there was, but I don't think so.
No.
No.
I was sitting there.
I didn't know.
You could
Is that Lamil? Is that his name? Oh,
Vimal.
Lamil. I didn't know if he was already here sitting there.
I haven't seen him yet.
No.
He usually comes every day, but we'll see. So you'll monitor the live video.
Sure, is it already going?
I think so. You see the seconds running up, up top?
Yeah, except it's going down. Live. Oh no, it's going up.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's all relative.
We'll do page 3, the precepts, up to precepts. Homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dhamma, I take refuge in the Sangha. For the second time, I take refuge in the Buddha. For the second time, I take refuge in the Dhamma. For the second time, I take refuge in the Sangha. For the third time, I take refuge in the Buddha. For the third time, I take refuge in the Dhamma. For the third time, I take refuge in the Sangha. I undertake the precept to abstain from harming living beings. I undertake the precept to abstain from taking what is not given. I undertake the precept to abstain from sexual misconduct. I undertake the precept to abstain from false speech. I undertake the precept to abstain from intoxicating drinks and drugs that lead to heedlessness. You can put that aside and do about a few minutes of meditation. Closing your eyes, grounding yourself in this space here and now. Taking a deep breath and releasing. Keeping a gentle smile on your face to help ease any tension, any past worries, anxieties. Feeling the breath in and out. Continue breathing in, breathing out. Tune in with it Be in tuned and be with, just be the breath, finding stillness, peace, and harmony between the mind and the body. May I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be calm, may I find stillness and tranquility. May all beings be well, may all beings be happy, may all beings be peaceful, may all beings be calm, may all beings find stillness and tranquility. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Make sure you have one of these with you. This is the discussion. This is the printout we are going to use today. It has an introduction and the story broken into different segments. And in this document, on page 82, you find the discourse on Aṅgulimāla from the middle length discourses of the Buddha, or from Majjhima Nikaya. And it goes on for a couple of pages, and then you have more stories in it. And very last you find this that I sent in the email. This is the protective chant that is chanted for pregnant mothers to help ease with their labor and ward off any difficulties they may have in labor room. So Aṅgulimāla was a murderer. He killed. He's a serial killer in your term. Um, no wonder many people are interested in that story today. So, if you go to the introduction here, we can skip some lines. But this is mostly, many people believe that this is a true story. And the story is found in the commentary to the Middle Length Discourses and in the commentary of the Dhammapada, the Handbook of Buddhists, and again in their Gatha commentary. But they have different stories, slightly different details of the story, so depending on the writer, they would add some details into the story. But Anguli refers to, in Sinhala, Angili. The thing, Mala refers to a garland. So imagine someone wearing a garland of fingers. And that sight, they get terrified and freeze right there, so people can't even run away when they see something like that. But his real name was Ahinsaka. When he was born, there was a prediction that he will be a murderer. So his parents, they were advisors to the king. His parents decided to send him to a jungle and not look after him at all, because the prediction was that he will kill so many people and make villages empty and cause problems to the kingdom. But because his father was an advisor to the king advised him to send him to a good school, which the father did, and also named him as Ahinsaka. Ahinsaka means harmless person. They tried to give him a good name. It didn't help though. So he was the best student of this teacher. He was sent to, so when at that time, when he was in school, the teacher teaches everything, archeries and everything. And Ahinsaka, as a good student, was the best and best and best of everything. So many students were jealous of him. And he was the teacher's favorite student. I think in your classes you had some students like that. And if you were that student, other students might have been jealous of you. So his friends, Ahinsaka's friends, were very jealous. So they made a plot, and they made up this story that Ahinsaka has an affair with the wife of the teacher. So one day, about 3 students would go to the teacher's room, and then a couple of days later, few more different bunch of students went to the teacher and said, we saw Aṅgulimāla, Ahinsaka and your wife in the hallway. So they are now kind of spreading rumors, trying to convince the teacher that there is something happening between the two. And another day, when Ahinsaka happened to visit home, the teacher lives in the school, so when Ahinsaka was coming out from the headquarters, the place where the teacher and wife lived, maybe he went to do some work there, help the family, because he was a good student and he must have been a frequent visitor of the house. And students somehow brought that to the attention of the teacher. So when there is a doubt, everything you see confirms your doubt, right? So the teacher thought, this must be true. Um, and then the teacher made his own plan to take revenge, punish the student. And it's strange, as Bhikkhu Bodhi mentioned, he would think of 100 different ways to punish the student, not asking this particular request. Somehow the teacher asked Ahinsaka to his place. I think secretly said something like, don't tell this to anyone. You have mastered everything, you are the best of everything, but I can't give you the degree certificate. You are not yet ready to graduate unless you do this. So the teacher told him to collect 1,000 small fingers, not from corpses, from, you have to kill each person, and you can only take one finger from each human body. And this makes me wonder if he was the best student. Will he do that? Wisdom. I think the teacher was able to convince him. Maybe teacher might have told something like, my life is in my head. This is something, a good student, only a good student can do. So this is the reward for the custom at that time, that there is no tuition fee, but this is the tuition fee, that you go out, tell your parents that you are ready to graduate, and you bring something to the teacher, gold or something. But now for Ahinsaka, teacher wanted something completely different. So Ahinsaka, the teacher's plan was that when Ahinsaka starts killing people this way, the reputation of him would go to the court, to the king, and the king will send troops and will catch this man and will kill him or jail him. But he was a clever man, so taking the 1,000 people, and then more bird would get the fingers and he will lose some, so he had to make a garland and wear it around his neck. It's again a weird thing to do, but he was a committed student, so he ended up doing it. So he went and found a place in this huge forest called Jalini Forest, and he went up there, and there was an observatory kind of a place from where he could see people passing by. He would kill one, two, and people started going by groups, like 10s, 20s. It didn't bother to Ahinsaka, who is now turned a murderer, and the proper name Aṅgulimāla is already assigned to him, given to him. People abandoned villages because nobody knew how to escape Ahinsaka when he had all these weaponries that he made himself, and he was really strong and living in this forest, hiding in a cave where he was. So finally it was the day that the king sent troops to catch this man. And then this man also managed to collect 999 fingers by this point, and he had only just one finger to get, so he would fulfill the wish of the teacher and will be happy, will be free from it, and perhaps save the teacher also. So the Buddha, in his meditation, as it is the habit of the Buddha, he kind of scanned the entire area from his third eye view, and saw that Aṅgulimāla is the person to help that day, that Aṅgulimāla had the potential to become an enlightened person. I think the reputation of Aṅgulimāla must have already gone to the Buddha, that the Buddha knew that there is this murderer killing people, and the Buddha made his own plan to see if he could do something about it, to stop him from killing. And also, there's wife, she's a Brahmani, she wanted to save her son. So she decided to go to that Jalani forest alone, and she also made sweet food that her son liked. I think she still has the memories of the son as a young man. At the time he was sent to this school, and because they may not have had much of a connection, so she wanted to make the best food her son liked. And she was also on her way to save. I thought I could convince him otherwise. And this was something the Buddha, as the Buddha saw, was an offense a son would do if he were to kill the mother, and he would never escape. He would go to hell by doing that, purgatory hell, and will be born in lower realms, and there is no escape. So there are these 5 grave offenses. One is killing your mother, or killing one of your parents, shedding blood of a Buddha, shedding blood of an Arahant, and causing schism when there are monks living in harmony. If someone causes schism, divide them, that would have just like killing your parents. So killing your mother, killing your father, causing schisms, shedding blood of a Buddha, like the Buddha's cousin, I think the cousin brother or cousin did, and shedding blood of an enlightened monk, an arahant. So Aṅgulimāla was going to do one of those, shedding blood of or killing his mom. By the time he came to 999 fingers, he was already mad and crazy. Whether he recognizes his mom or not, he would still go and kill the mother just because he's mad. And maybe later he realizes that's what he did. But the Buddha didn't want Aṅgulimāla to do that, so the Buddha went before everyone, before the king's troops, or before this mother. And so from the observatory, Aṅgulimāla saw the Buddha coming. He was surprised that no recluse would dare to go in that direction alone. So, but he thought this is an easy target. He went down the hill and started running behind the Buddha to catch the Buddha. But with psychic abilities, the Buddha made it so that Aṅgulimāla was, no matter how fast he ran, he could not catch the Buddha. And the Buddha was walking really calm, peaceful, just as he would walk normally in other days. And Aṅgulimāla thought, this is strange. I'm running really fast behind this recluse, but I don't seem to get any closer to him. And he said, stop, recluse. And the response of the Buddha is very famous here. He said, I have stopped. When will you stop? While walking. And this was to the perplexity of Aṅgulimāla. Like, he's a wise person, at least, in this connection, that he thought, there must be something to this. This is strange that I can't catch him, and now he is still walking, and he says something like, I have stopped, when will you stop? And then immediately he was just something crossed his mind, and he realized that this is a person who came to help him. So he drops all his weaponaries and knelt down in front of the Buddha. So that's, and then also became a monk. Um, so let's go to the sutra. Um, that's on page 82. Thus have I heard, this is the attendant monk Ananda, attendant monk of the Buddha, saying, at one time the Blessed One was staying in Anathapindika's park in Jetha's grove near Savatthi, the bandit of Jalini forest. Now at that time there was a bandit in the realm of Raja Pasenadi of Kosala, so that's his time, Kosala's time, named Aṅgulimāla, who was murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. On his account, villages were no more villages, market towns were no more market towns, and districts were no more districts. He was constantly murdering people and wore their fingers as a garland. Then, when it was the morning, the Blessed One, having dressed himself and taking robe and bowl, entered Savatthi for alms. Then the Blessed One, having walked for alms in Savatthi, returned from the alms round. After his meal and finished his meal, folded up his bedding, and then taking his bowl and outer robe, set out on the road leading towards Aṅgulimāla. Cowards, shepherds, ploughmen, and travelers saw the Buddha walking along the road leading towards Aṅgulimāla and told him, do not take this road, recluse. On this road is the bandit Aṅgulimāla, murderous, bloody-handed, violent, and deadly, merciless to living beings. Villages are no more villages, market towns are no more market towns, the countryside is no more the countryside. He is always murdering people and wears their fingers as a garland. Men have come along this road in groups of 10, 20, even 40, but still they have fallen into the bandit Aṅgulimāla's hands. Well, the translator says he's a bandit, just as if he robbed things. He might have done that to survive, but he mostly robbed the lives of people, killed them. When this was said, the Blessed One went on in silence. For the second time and for the third time, people could not convince the Buddha the other way. The Buddha meets Aṅgulimāla. The bandit Aṅgulimāla saw the Blessed One coming in the distance. When he saw him, he thought, how strange, this can be. Men have come along in groups of 10, 20, 30, and even 40, but still they have fallen into my hands. But now this recluse comes alone, unaccompanied, as if compelled. Why shouldn't I take this recluse's life? Aṅgulimāla then took up his sword and shield, strapped on his bow and quiver, and followed close behind the Blessed One. Then the Blessed One performed a feat of psychic power such that the bandit Aṅgulimāla, though going as fast as he could not catch up with the Blessed One, who was walking at his normal pace. Then the bandit Aṅgulimāla thought, how strange, this cannot be. Formerly I could catch up even with the swift elephant and seize it. I could catch up even with the swift horse and seize it. I could catch up with the swift chariot and seize it. I could catch up with the swift deer and seize it. But now, though I am going as fast as I cannot catch up with this recluse who is walking at his normal pace. He stopped and called out to the Blessed One, Stop, recluse, stop, recluse. I have stopped, Aṅgulimāla. You stop too. Tito aha Aṅgulimāla, tvam titta ti. That's the Pali. Then the bandit Aṅgulimāla thought, these recluses, sons of the Sakyans. So that says that Aṅgulimāla didn't know that this was the Buddha. That he thought, because he heard of it, that when people were being killed, they might have said the name of the Buddha as they were dying. So he might have heard of, or as an educated person, he might have heard of the Buddha before. So he thought this is just one of the sons of the Sakyans. The Buddha belonged to that clan, Sakyan clan. So many from that clan joined the order and became students of the Buddha. So Aṅgulimāla might have thought this is just one of those. Those who speak the truth, who assert truth, but though this recluse is still walking, he says, I have stopped, Aṅgulimāla, you stop too. Let me question this recluse. Then the bandit Aṅgulimāla addressed the Blessed One in verse like this. I'm not sure how he made a verse on the spot, but apparently he did. You are walking, O recluse, yet you say, I stand still, and to me who stands still, you say, you stand not still. Therefore, recluse, I ask you this question, how is it that you stand still and I stand not still? The Buddha says, I stand still, Aṅgulimāla, all the time. To all beings, I have laid down the rod, but you are unrestrained towards all beings. Therefore, I stand still and you stand not still. Long have I revered the recluse, the mighty sage who has entered the great forest. Therefore, having heard your stanza on the truth, I will renounce 1,000 evils. So he then realized that this is the Buddha. I think just the Buddha only spoke few words here, and at that point he realized that this is the Buddha. So saying, the bandit flung sword and weapon over the chasm, down the precipice into the abyss. The bandit bowed at the feet of the Sugata, well-gone one. That's the name. That's a name for the Buddha. And then requested for the going forth to become a monk. Compassionate is the Buddha, the great sage, the teacher of the world with its gods. He said this to him, come, O monk. And just this indeed made him a monk. So this is the way that the Buddha ordered someone. So this is one of the ways the Buddha gave ordination to someone. He only had to say, come, O monk. I think at this point Aṅgulimāla must have his, robes for the Buddha to say that, because Buddha didn't say that to Pukkusati, who also requested to enter to the order. The Buddha said, go find the robes and bowls, then only I can admit you to the order. But to Aṅgulimāla, I think he was already living in the forest and committed to such lives, not the town life, and must have had his clothes just to cover himself enough, like just rugged clothes, and a bowl for him to survive. So the Buddha had just to say this. Now we do a huge ceremony when someone enters the monkhood, enters the order. That's the later versions of entering order, inviting so many friends and relatives while they are crying. You put robes on a monk with several chants and a lot of things and cameras around and all this. But at this time, the Buddha said, come, monk. That's all the Buddha did. And this made him a monk. Then the Blessed One set out on a journey back to Savatthi with the Venerable Aṅgulimāla as attendant monk, and after journeying from place to place, arrived in due course at Savatthi, and there the Blessed One stayed in Anathapindika's park in Jetha's Grove near Savatthi. So King Pasenadi now seeks. So Pasenadi means he was the ruler for 5 rivers. It's a huge area in India, just like an emperor. So that's how he got the name. Nadi means rivers, Pase means 5. So this emperor now also seeks Aṅgulimāla, like is sending troops to catch him. Now at that time a great crowd had assembled at King Pasenadi's palace gate and raised a hue and cry, "Your Majesty, there is a robber in your kingdom named Aṅgulimāla. He is murderous, bloody-handed," and said all those. Then early in the day, Pasenadi Raja of Kosala set out of Savatthi with 500 horses. See how many people were sent to catch him. Heading for the park, going in his carriage as far as the road was passable for a carriage, he alighted from his carriage, proceeding on foot, went up to where the Blessed One was, and having gone up to the Blessed One, he saluted him and sat down at one side. And asking, as the King Pasenadi sat there at one side, the Blessed One said to him, "What is it, Maharaja?" Maharaja means great king. "Maharaja, is Senior Bimbisara, the Raja of Magadha, upset with you?" So this is another king. Are you going to a war? Or the Lichari of Vesali, another king. Or some other hostile kings. Why do you have all these troops behind you, and where are you headed? Bhante, so that's the term, means venerable sir. Senior Bimbisara, king, the Raja of Magadha, is not upset with me, nor the Lichavis of Vesali, nor any other hostile kings. Bhante, there is a bandit named Aṅgulimāla in my realm. He is murderous, and said all that. And Bhante, I cannot subdue him. Now, king, suppose you were to see Aṅgulimāla with his hair and beard shaven, clad in saffron robe, and gone forth from the household life into homelessness. The Buddha is asking a tricky question here. That he is abstaining from destroying life, abstaining from taking the not given. This is just the 5 precepts. And is celibate, virtuous, of good character. He's eating one meal a day. I'm skipping some lines here. If you were to see him thus, how would you treat him? Bhante, we would salute him, or rise up to greet him, or invite him to be seated, or invite him to accept robes, alms food, lodging or medicine, and support for the sick. Or we would provide him with guard, defense, and protection in accordance with the law. But Bhante, how could one of such an immoral and evil character ever have such virtue and restraint? The king did not. He says, are you joking? Pasenadi meets Aṅgulimāla. Now at that time, the Venerable Aṅgulimāla was sitting not far from the Blessed One. Then the Blessed One stretched forth his right arm and said to Pasenadi and Raja of Kosala, Maharaja, this is Aṅgulimāla. Then the king Pasenadi was stricken with fear, stiff with fear. He bristled with fear. Seeing Pasenadi, now of course the king didn't have any weapons in front of the Buddha. Seeing Pasenadi, the Raja of Kosala, thus fearful, he said this to him, "Fear not, Maharaja, fear not. There is nothing for you to fear from him." Thereupon the king's fear subsided. Then Pasenadi, the Raja of Kosala, went up to the Venerable Aṅgulimāla and said, "Bhante, is our noble master really Aṅgulimāla?" "Yes, Maharaja." "Bhante, of what family is the noble master's father? Of what family is mother?" "My father, Maharaja, is Gagga. My mother is Mantani." a Mantani. So I think there are many Mantanis, and she is one of them. Bhante, if it pleases the noble master Gagga, Mantani Putta means son of Gagga and Mantani, I shall provide you with robes. So Mantani Putta is also a name for Aṅgulimāla, son of the Gagga and Mantani. I shall provide you with robes, alms, food, lodging, and medicine, and support when you are sick. Now at that time, the Venerable Aṅgulimāla was a forest dweller, an alms food eater, a refuse rag wearer. People just throw away rags, and he was wearing those, and restricted himself to 3 robes. So that says that he was practicing, he committed to practice Dhutanga. So Dhutanga is the Pali word for austere practices. Only few monks committed to this practice at the time of the Buddha. Now in Thailand, this is practiced as Tudong, and they do it in the rain season. And there's a book called Blistered Feet, Blissful Mind, to English monks doing this practice in England. They just decide to just journey in rural England and see how they felt in that experience, that they don't inform anybody that they are coming, and they go with just the bowl and the basic utensils, just like camping, and they would, it's part of your practice. So people suspected them and made jokes of them, and their stories are written in that book. His name is, now he's a layperson, his name is Ajahn Tim. I think I forgot his previous name. I don't have the book here, but he mailed it to me from England when I was living in Italy. I was interested in reading that. Very interesting book. Some people thought the 2 monks are a gay couple going from place to place, and their clothes were different because they were helping each other as partners. So those were experiences they had, how to, whether to react or respond or not be bothered from such reactions. And some people never offered them anything. They were standing in front of supermarkets, they got nothing. People just threw coins in there, or garbage in there. So interesting experiences. So going on alms round in this country is very difficult. But yeah.
I thought that Ajahn means that like Bhante in Thailand. So
Ajahn is used for lay people too.
Oh, yeah, that's right, my question.
Like Ajahn Braham is a monk.
Yeah.
But in Thailand, when someone quits being a monk, they are still teachers, they are respected. But it's opposite in Sri Lanka. People think in Sri Lanka, when someone quits being a monk, that they have fallen from higher to the lower, just like losers. They have that mentality.
Yeah.
But I think it has now lost its distinction that monks are educated, and no matter what position they are in, if they quit being monks, they are still respected. So there's a different understanding of it.
Yeah, but they can keep that term, Bhante, or like that.
They will never use it after they quit.
So that was my question.
But so look at it this way, like Ajahn means the teacher.
Oh.
But you can say Bhante Ajahn something.
Oh.
So that's, an adjective to specify that he is a monk, a reverential person. Okay? So we have already... Okay, now, so he committed to these practices. Then the Venerable Aṅgulimāla said this to Pasenadi, to the king. I have enough, great king. My triple robes are complete, but thank you for trying to help me. Then the king returned to the Blessed One, and after saluting him, sat down at one side and said, "How wonderful, how marvelous, how the Buddha tames the untamed, brings peace to the unpeaceful, extinguish the unextinguished." Um, Unextinguished here means there is fire in those people who are murderers. Now you have extinguished that fire. So he's a peaceful person, free from any fire. Bhante, we ourselves could not tame him with the rod and the sword by fear and force. Yet you have tamed him neither with the rod nor the sword. And now, Bhante, we depart. We are busy and have much to do. This is the thing that many people who are in these positions told to the Buddha. Bahu kicchaman, bahu karanya. We are busy, busy, busy. That's the Pali way of saying it. And the Buddha said, "Okay, as you please." Then he rose from the seat and left. So now this part about Aṅgulimāla's compassion. Then when it was the morning, Aṅgulimāla dressed himself and taking his bowl and outer robe went into Savatthi for alms. As he was going for alms on an unbroken round of the houses, which means you don't skip rich or the poor house, you just go in the order. So you go in Savatthi, he saw a certain woman in difficult and painful labor. When he saw this, he thought, how beings suffer, how living beings suffer. When he had gone for alms and had returned from his alms round, after his meal, he went to the Buddha, saluted the Buddha and said, "Bhante, I saw this woman. In that case, Aṅgulimāla, go into the town and say this to the woman," the Buddha said. The Buddha is now wants Aṅgulimāla to prove that he is a harmless person and prove how powerful he is. Because when he went on alms round, people threw stones at him. Most days he came with no food, bloodshed and blood in his head, and people was for what he did before. So go tell this to that woman. "Sister, since I was born, I do not recall ever having intentionally deprived a living being." So since I was born means the second birth. That's becoming a monk and going against the stream. So going upward, not just the flow of killing people and doing all kinds of bad things. Now he's on the other direction. So this is an utterance of truth. Since I was born the second time, I do not recall ever having intentionally deprived a living being of life. By this truth, may you be well, may your womb, your child, be well. So he did that. By this truth, may you be well, may your child be well. Yes, Bhante, Venerable Aṅgulimāla replied in assent to the Blessed One, and having gone into Savatthi, said to the woman, "And before long, dwelling alone, aloof." Then the woman and the child in her womb became well. So that's the end of that part. So then the last part, I think, is Aṅgulimāla's awakening. Aṅgulimāla's arahanthood. Before long, dwelling alone, aloof, diligent, exertive, and resolute. So these words come when in the canon, when in any place when they describe a person's mind in the meditative state. Dwelling alone, aloof, diligent, exertive, making effort, and resolute. The Venerable Aṅgulimāla, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge here and now, attain and abide in that supreme goal of the holy life. for the sake of which sons of family rightly go forth from the household life into the homeless life. He directly knew birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, done what had to be done, there is no more for this state of being, and the Venerable Aṅgulimāla became one of the arahants, one of the enlightened monks. But his past karma ripens. Then when it was morning, Aṅgulimāla dressed himself and taking his bowl and outer robe, went into Savatthi for food. Now on that occasion, someone threw a clod and hit the Venerable Aṅgulimāla's body. Someone else threw a stick and hit the Venerable. Someone else threw a potsherd and hit the Venerable. Then with blood streaming from his cut head, with his bowl broken, usually a clay bowl easily breaks, and with his outer robe torn, the Venerable went to the Buddha. And the Buddha saw him coming from distance and told him, "Bear it, Brahmin." Brahmin is a term the Buddha used to name the enlightened monks, but at that time, Brahmin is also a term used for high-class people, superior people, people who had better birth, or the advisors to the king. The Buddha wanted to give a different interpretation to that and decided to address all the enlightened monks by Brahmin. You are experiencing here and now the result of deeds because of which you might have been tortured in hell for many years, for many hundreds of years, for many thousands of years. Because of what you did, if you did not become an enlightened monk, you would have rotten in hell for many thousands of years. Now this is the Buddha saying that you are free from those. When Aṅgulimāla was alone in retreat, enjoying the bliss of liberation, he uttered these verses of uplift. Who was heedless before means he was not mindful, but no more mindless, brightens this world like the cloud-free moon, because it brightens, whose past evil deeds are blocked off by good deeds, brightens this world like the cloud-free moon. The young monk who devotes himself to the Buddha's teaching brightens this world like the cloud-free moon. Let even my enemies hear the teachings of the Buddha, teachings the Dharma. Let them be devoted to the Buddha's teaching. Let even my enemies associate with those people who, being good, lead others to accept this teaching. Let my enemies in due time hear the truth from the speakers of patience who praise harmony, and may they act accordingly. For surely then he would not wish me harm, nor harm other beings. He would gain supreme peace. He would protect all, the moving, the still. Means animals staying in one place like seashells. Ditch diggers guide water, fletchers bend the bow, carpenters bend wood, but the wise tame themselves. Ditch diggers here means farmers who make a ditch to bring water from one place to another. They have to really do some work to get water to some place. They guide water. Fletchers bend the bow. Those who make arrows and bows have to make that. They didn't have plastic at that time. They had this bent wood, so they could just shoot the arrow as far as they wanted. Carpenters bend wood, but the wise tame themselves. So now these are different examples of people doing hard work to get a result. But wise people, what do? They tame their mind and get the benefits of it. Some tame with the rod, some with hooks, others with whips, but I was tamed by the one who has neither rod nor sword. That's the Buddha. Non-violent, Ahimsa, this is a term, or ahinsaka, term that's popular in India. Gandhi used it, non-violence, and broadly, I think, freedom to Indians. Non-violent, ahinsaka is my name. In the past I was violent, today I am truly named, for I violate no living beings at all. In the past a bandit was I, known as finger garland Aṅgulimāla. Being carried away by a mighty flood, I found refuge in the Buddha. In the past, bloody-handed was I, known as finger garland Aṅgulimāla. See the refuge I have found, that which leads to new existence has been removed. Having done many evil deeds that lead to evil realms, touched by karmic fruits, I eat my food debt-free. The foolish, the unwise, give themselves up to negligence, but the wise one guards diligence in his greater treasure. Give not yourselves up to negligence, nor delight in sensual pleasures. The wise who meditate gain happiness in abundance. Welcome, not unwelcome, no bad counsel is this for me. Amongst the things shared out, I have found the best. So, who comes, who goes, he doesn't care. I'm alone and I'm happy. That kind of a thing. Welcome, not unwelcome, not bad counsel is this for me. The three knowledges are one. Done is the Buddha's teaching. So, three knowledges means, if you go to number 55, the footnote, the recollection of past lives, the divine eye, and the knowledge of destruction of mental influxes. So this is an extra skill to have the three knowledges and become enlightened. So monks at that time could just be enlightened but not have the three knowledges, tevijas. So he was fortunate that way to get that far. I think these last verses are not found in the original sutra, in Middle Length Discourses, the verses we read, because as we began reading the verses, you find the reference above, Theravada 871, 886, and also on the right margin you find DH 172, means Dhammapada 172. The places where these are mentioned. I'm not sure if these are really mentioned in the original sutra, but it doesn't matter. This says his change, his transformation to being a good person. Now this story, I think there is a similar story like this in the Bible. I don't really recall it, but I have heard the name of this man who was really bad person but became a good person later. Or maybe in the Christian literature there is that story in one of the Gospels or some other some scripture. Well, the message here is, no matter how bad you were, what bad thing you did in the past, you can change, you can stop, and you can always find peace. And it's you who can do it. You only need to listen to wise people. So this does not justify people of what they're murdering and killing or anything. That's not how we should understand this. But this tells people, you might have been doing all kinds of bad things in the past, killing, stealing and all that. But if you want, you can change and be a good person. And this has been, a story taught for over 2500 years. In every Buddhist country, kids know this story of Aṅgulimāla, bad student who became a murderer and then later became an enlightened monk. But nobody talks about that bad teacher very much. he's the one to be punished and blamed actually. But nobody knew that he assigned it to the teacher, because teacher might have told him never to disclose this. I think the teacher knew the consequences of it. But later Aṅgulimāla must have revealed it to the Buddha, and that part is only found in commentaries. Anyway, that's the story. Any questions? We got about 1 minute.
The way I have heard, I don't know, maybe not right, but what I have heard is that before he graduated, or after graduating, before he leave the teacher, he had asked the teacher, how should I offer my gratitude?
Mm-hmm.
Then he has, okay.
Do this.
Yeah, do this.
Yeah. So maybe he graduated by then. No, teacher forced graduated him, but not completely.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't sign his degree certificate. So he could not go home and have it on his wall that he graduated from this good school. But somehow, different people add different details into the story.
What do you think of his state of mind? Because he's not a bad person, and he killed the people just to fulfill the teacher's wish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he can be it's like a surgeon cut
But-
her skin of a he get a tumor.
Right. But you have to be angry to kill a person, right? You can't just kill a person. I don't think you can, even an animal, an ant or a mosquito, you have to be angry.
But
Or afraid.
Or afraid, right? You have
Yeah.
to have this fear and something.
but he was so devoted to the teacher, so I mean he was the best student of the teacher.
And the most foolish student.
Yeah.
I assume that he went into got stuck in the duality, and he was maybe hearing voices and was really insane at that moment.
I'm sure, and all these people who were killed might have come after him to take revenge, so he definitely must have heard voices.
But my example was like a surgeon cut the skin or
Yeah.
open the heart to cure the heart, right? So he
Possible that he had a different intention, the more but I would leave that school, and I would never in my life want to be under that teacher for even a second. No matter how best he tried to convince me, I would not accept it. Anyway, thank you for coming, and let's conclude with what we find on page 6 of this, in the closing part. Sabba papassa akaranam kusalassa upasampada sacitta pariyodapanam etam buddhana sasanam. The avoiding of evil, the doing of good, the purification of the mind, this is the Buddha's teaching. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So we won't do another discussion until January, and we will let you know in email when we resume.
And what about Wednesday?
Wednesday, yes. Dawn is going to lead the session. Are you happy to, or will you be around?
Yeah.
Okay. You can change your mind at any time, right here. You can come to the meditation and not lead it.
No, I don't.
But yes, he will be here.
Should I stop this now?
Yes, please. And the rest I will do.